You walk into a room. There are people you've never met. And before anyone says a single word, your brain has already made a decision. It happens in less than a second, faster than you can blink twice. You don't choose it. You don't feel it happening, but it happens every single time. Your brain just decided whether that stranger is safe. Sound impossible? It isn't. It's one of the oldest habits your mind has. And once you see it, you'll never walk into a room the same way again. Here's what's actually going on. In the year 2000, psychologist Alexander Todorov ran an experiment that changed how scientists understood first impressions. He showed people photographs of unfamiliar faces, just faces, no names, no context, no voices, and he flashed each photo for a fraction of a second, 1/10 of a second. That's less time than it takes to say the word hello. Then he asked a simple question: does this person look trustworthy? The answers were remarkably consistent. Different people, looking at the same stranger's face for 100 milliseconds, arrived at nearly identical judgments. Trustworthy or not, competent or not, dominant or not. Think about that for a moment. 100 milliseconds isn't enough time to think. It isn't enough time to reason. It isn't even enough time to fully register what you're looking at consciously. So what is your brain actually doing in that gap? It's running a threat assessment, an ancient one that has nothing to do with the modern world you live in now. For most of human history, seeing a stranger was not a small thing. It was not a coworker walking into an office. It was not a classmate sitting down next to you. It was a potential predator or a potential ally. And getting that judgment wrong could cost you everything. Your ancestors didn't have police. They didn't have background checks. They didn't have social media profiles to scroll through before deciding if someone was safe. What they had was a face, a posture, a few seconds of eye contact. And from that, they had to decide immediately: fight or trust, flee or cooperate. The humans who hesitated too long, who needed more data before reacting, were sometimes the humans who didn't survive the encounter. The humans who could size up a stranger instantly, correctly, often enough, were the ones who passed that instinct down. You are descended from the fast deciders, not the careful ones. That's why your brain still does this. Not because you need it at the coffee shop or the job interview, but because the wiring never got the memo that the world changed. Psychologist Paul Ekman spent decades studying human facial expressions across dozens of cultures, from urban Americans to isolated tribes in Papua New Guinea who had never seen a movie screen or a photograph. What he found was that certain expressions, fear, anger, disgust, contempt, showed up the same way on human faces everywhere. Universally recognized. Instantly read. That's not a coincidence. That's a survival system, hardwired so deeply that it doesn't require culture to teach it. Your face has been broadcasting signals since before language existed, and other brains have been reading those signals just as long. But here's where it gets stranger. It's not just about safety anymore. Your brain doesn't stop at, is this person dangerous? It keeps going. It starts building an entire personality in seconds, based on almost nothing. Researchers Nalini Ambati and Robert Rosenthal discovered something remarkable in the 1990s. They showed people silent video clips of teachers, just a few seconds long, with no sound at all. Then they asked viewers to rate those teachers on things like warmth, confidence, and likability. The ratings, made from a few silent seconds of footage, closely matched evaluations from students who had spent an entire semester with those same teachers. A few seconds, no words, and the judgment held up months later. Ambati called this thin slicing. Your brain takes a thin slice of information, body language, tone, posture, the tiniest facial cues, and extrapolates an entire story from it. Confident or nervous, trustworthy or shady, competent or clueless. And the unsettling part, you're usually not that far off. Thin slicing works often enough that evolution kept it around, but often enough is not the same as always. Here's the twist nobody wants to hear. This system, the one keeping you alive for hundreds of thousands of years, was built for a world of small tribes. A world where you might meet a few dozen new people in your entire life. Not a world where you scroll past hundreds of faces a day, swipe through dating apps in seconds, or judge a job candidate before they've finished their handshake. Your ancient threat detector is now making judgments about people it was never designed to judge. A stranger's face on a screen, a name on a resume, a voice on a video call, and it's not always right. Todorov's later research found that split-second trustworthiness judgments barely correlate with whether someone is actually trustworthy. The system that kept your ancestors alive is confidently, consistently, wrong more often than you'd like to admit. So why doesn't your brain just stop doing this? Because from an evolutionary standpoint, a wrong guess that costs you nothing is a much smaller risk than a missed threat that costs you your life. Your brain isn't optimized for accuracy, it's optimized for survival. And those are not the same thing. That means every time you meet someone new, you are not seeing them clearly. You are seeing a 100,000-year-old shortcut, dressed up as your own opinion. The confident stranger who seems shady, that might just be an unfamiliar facial structure triggering an ancient alarm. The nervous stranger who seems trustworthy, that might just be a softer jawline, activating the opposite response. None of this means your instincts are useless. It means they were built for a different world, and they never got updated. So the next time you meet someone, and some quiet, wordless feeling tells you exactly who they are, before they've said a single sentence, remember what's actually happening. That's not you judging a stranger. That's your ancestors, still making the call.